Hey everyone, and welcome to Quick Review. Today I'm looking at Pathologic 2, a story-driven, dark survival game that's pretty creepy, but not quite a horror game. It's also not quite a sequel to Pathologic, but it also sort of is. Let's just say the degree of thematic and story similarities is abundant. With that said, I'm actually not going to dive into this game's story at all, despite the fact that it's a story-driven game. Mostly because I don't want to spoil anything. There's so much going on in this game, the mystery you're unraveling is super deep, and I don't even want to chance ruining parts of this game for anyone that's interested in playing through it. So, I'm just going to gloss over the general concepts that guide you on your journey. There are a couple of core mechanics in Pathologic. First off, the game is heavy on survival. Literally, every step you take, every minute you spend in the game has some sort of impact on your character. As you walk, you'll slowly become more and more thirsty, so you'll regularly have to quench that thirst. The more time you spend awake, the more tired you get. The more time you spend existing without food, the hungrier you get. It's very possible that overexerting your character kills you. I genuinely don't know. I did everything in my power to avoid death, because death also hurts you. Surprise! Despite offering a wide variety of save points, saving the game does nothing more than anchoring you to a point that you will eventually respawn at. Why? Because dying has consequences. Every time you die, your character will become weaker in some way. So, you'll die, respawn at your last save point, losing your progress, but also gaining some detriment to your character that will make continuing the game increasingly difficult. Avoid dying. Just don't die. It's easy, right? Well, not always. There are other mechanics afoot as well that will make your survival more and more difficult, depending on how you interact with the people and what you do. Different parts of the city can grow to hate you. If people start to hate you too much, you'll be mobbed and beaten to death relatively quickly upon entering areas with people that hate you. Can you defend yourself? Absolutely. But hand-to-hand combat felt a little unreliable at times. The game goes for a relatively basic punch-block dynamic. You can punch and you can block. There are some heavy attacks thrown in there as well, but for the most part, you just punch things or stab things or shoot things. Unfortunately, the hand-to-hand combat felt a little clunky. Sometimes it felt like my hits weren't registering as my character's fist crossed through the enemy's faces. Honestly, I just tried to avoid fighting as much as I could, because even if you get the hang of it, there are still other consequences like it simply exhausting your character, which means more water, more food, and more rest. Rest is also sort of bad, because the entire game is based around a timed cycle. Every day brings about different events. Nothing is spelled out for you, so it's on the player to explore and discover what's going on that day and push as far into side quests and story as you can. Some events happen during the day, some at night, and you need to balance your sleep cycle to ensure you get as much or as little done as you want. There are some more mechanics like bartering, autopsies, lock-picking minigames, and all, but I think this is a fair general summary of the game. Now, there are a few things I need to complain about. Loading times. Every time you enter a building, the inside of the building needs to load, and it takes way longer than I have ever seen a game load the inside of a building. When it came to controls, they were a little buggy too. If you were entering or leaving a building, you'd have to take your hand off the keyboard. Why? Well, this is one of those games where they seem to only track up and down key events, as opposed to acknowledging that a user could hold a key down. So, whenever you interact, change areas, you need to release your keys or your character will just stop moving. If this was a choice, it's a weird one, but I'm going to chalk it up as a pretty rookie programming mistake. And finally, the pacing. When I started playing this game, it felt super creepy. There was just so much jumping around, snapping back and forth between locations, and a lot of things made you really feel like you were in some crazy, almost haunted town, or at least a town where some serious shit was happening. But then the game just slows down for a while, like really slows down. The creepy factor vanishes, and you're left almost feeling like you're in an empty town with little to do. Sure, there are lots of characters to talk to, buildings to explore, but there also isn't much NPC diversity. So in one situation, I had two of the same NPC standing beside each other. Maybe that was intentional, increased creepiness. Either ways, the game does pick back up again, but there are moments where you feel like you're crawling despite the fact that you're introduced to the game at a sprinting pace. Anyways, that's Pathologic 2. There were problems, some very noticeable. However, the story was amazing, the atmosphere the game creates was also amazing, and I just felt enthralled in the world that was created here. I wanted to know more about what was going on, and it's rare that I'm driven to actually explore the entirety of a game's world without being explicitly told to do so. Also, for some reason, I feel like every creepy horror type game is always riddled with bugs. Is it just a thing developers do to make you feel that much more uneasy while playing their games? I don't know. Either ways, I enjoyed this, just know that it's not perfect. And don't forget, this is just in my opinion. If you feel like I left something out, disagree, or just want to suggest an upcoming game for me to review, leave a comment. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe. I review new games every week, and I'll be throwing in some other non-review gaming content that you don't want to miss. Otherwise, thanks for watching.